I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about.
This is not what he expected to find on Google Earth. On July 11, 1997, William Earl Malt called his girlfriend at 9:30 to tell her he'd be home soon, but he never made it home. He was last seen driving a white 1994 Saturn sedan, but where he and the car went remained a mystery, until a man using Google Earth to look at the Grand Isles neighborhood in Florida noticed something strange. In the retention pond behind the houses was a white car, and when police looked inside, they found Malt's skeletal remains, which had been there for 22 years.
This is one of the creepiest stories I've ever heard of. In fact, it's so creepy, Netflix is actually making a documentary about this right now. The ending of the story will make your skin crawl. So it takes place in the 80s in Hollywood, and basically this hysterical woman knocks on this person's door. She's saying, "There's so much blood." So this guy lets her into her house and he calls the police on her behalf. 10 minutes later, the LAPD show up and they tell him that this person has a history of mental health problems and they take her away. Right? No big deal. He thinks nothing more of it. But 30 minutes later, 2 more LAPD officers show up at his house. And apparently, they had no idea or no record of the first 2 officers that showed up and took this lady away. What?
In 1974, Karen Silkwood was on the verge of exposing unsafe working conditions at the Kerr-McGee nuclear fuel plant in Oklahoma. That's when, over a 3-day period, she began testing positive for plutonium contamination. It was coming from inside her, so much so that when she breathed, she expelled contaminated air. On November 13, 1974, she was driving to Oklahoma City to meet up with a New York Times reporter to break the story. With her, she had a packet of documents to support her claims. But she never made it. She died in a front-end one-car crash that the police ruled accidental. They said that she had fallen asleep while driving. But there were marks on the back of her car as if another car had pushed her off the road, and the documents she had been carrying were missing and have never been found.
Yes, the footage that I'm going to show you is completely real. In 2013, Elisa Lam was vacationing in the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Every day of her trip, she would call her parents and check in with them, but on January 31st, those calls had stopped and she had vanished. For a while, nobody had any information on her or knew where she went, but then that February, the LAPD released this footage of her in the elevator. The footage shows her acting very strangely, peering outside the door, opening, closing the door, and appearing to talk to somebody who is not there or invisible people. Whatever was going on in this video raised a lot more questions than there were answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possessions to even unknown assailants just out of the camera's view. Right when this was happening, the hotel guests noticed something very strange with the water supply. When a guest tried to take a shower, the water would come out black first. Another hotel guest said the water tasted sweet and disgusting. Finally, an employee went to the roof and checked the hotel's water storage tanks. And in that water supply is where they found the naked, decomposing body of Elisa Lam.
Please help me find this man's family. This man was found dead in a tent in Florida. On July 2018, a body was found. When the police released a sketch of him, the internet later flooded with pictures from people who have met this man, but no identity was found. According to the people he met along the way, he never gave a name, but went by mostly harmless hiker who was hiking for a digital detox. So no ID and no phone was on him. The police ran his DNA and fingerprints with no matches. They even sent him to a high DNA research lab with no luck. No signs of suicide or murder. But TikTok, do your thing. Maybe we can find his mother and family.
Here's the mystery of the Umbrella Man. Okay, so this is kind of like a part 2 to the one that I posted yesterday about the babushka lady, because they're essentially the same thing, but it's a little bit of a quirk. The date is November 22nd, 1963, the date that JFK was assassinated. JFK's motorcade passes through Dealey Plaza. Standing on this side is the babushka lady, like I said yesterday. However, on the other side of the road is a man holding an umbrella. He was given the pseudonym Umbrella Man. It's normal to have an umbrella, but not on a bright and sunny day where it was 70 degrees in Dallas, Texas. And here we go, where things get weird. Right as JFK's motorcade was about to pass, the Umbrella Man opened his umbrella. Some people believe that this is a signal for the first shooter to shoot, and it is presumed that this is Lee Harvey Oswald. And right when JFK passed him, the Umbrella Man panned his umbrella from east to west, which would have been clockwise. And then right after that, the President of the United States was assassinated. As the motorcade sped away, the Umbrella Man sat down on the sidewalk with another man, and then got up and went to the Texas School Book Depository. What do you think?
These strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today we have Arkansas. On August 23rd, 1987, Kevin Ives and Don Henry both went hunting together in a wooded area. They were near some train tracks, which was also very close to Don's house in Bryant, Arkansas. A train was making its usual night run to Little Rock when the engineer noticed something very strange. There were two boys lying on the train tracks, but despite all of the honking, they wouldn't get up or even move a muscle, and so he tried to emergency brake, but it didn't work and he ended up hitting them and killing them. A medical examiner determined that they were really high and they had smoked about 20 joints. But when both of these boys' families were told that, they didn't believe it. When they were killed, they were covered in light green tarp with Don's rifle next to them on the ground. Don's family said that he would have never left his rifle on the ground to get scratched, and that no matter how high they were, they would have woken up to all of the honking and the noise. Kevin's family hired a private investigator, and every time he would try to talk to the cops, they'd be so unwilling and resistant to talk to him. A different autopsy was conducted, and it turns out they only smoked 1 to 3 joints, and they were dead before they were even hit.
This is weird. Here's the mystery of the Pearl Harbor ghost plane. The date is December 8th, 1942. It's exactly 1 year and 1 day after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, which, if you don't know, is a naval base in Hawaii. A naval officer noticed that there was an unidentified aircraft moving in from the west. In other words, Pearl Harbor looked to be under attack again. Multiple fighter planes were then deployed to intercept the target. When they got into the air, they noticed that it wasn't a Japanese bomber. Instead, it was a United States P-40 Warhawk, aka the exact same model plane used to defend Pearl Harbor from the Japanese a year prior. They were decommissioned in 41. Only something about this one was off. These are the exact quotes from the fighter pilots tasked to intercept. All of the pilots stated that the plane was, quote, shot to shit. There were bullet holes all over the wings. The main rotor wasn't spinning. 2 of the pilots claimed that they got a good look at the person flying the Warhawk. They said that the pilot was, quote, certainly dead, and that he couldn't have been flying the plane. The plane then crash landed. The pilot in question was nowhere to be found.
Want to go down another Wikipedia rabbit hole? Let's talk about the Thevoynich Manuscript. In 1912, a man named Wilfrid Thevoynich bought 30 manuscripts from the Catholic Church. One of the manuscripts, which is now named after him, was a little different than the others. The Thevoynich Manuscript is a 240-page book that scholars believe was written sometime in the 15th century. But what makes it weird is that it's written in a completely unknown language. Tons of people, from cryptographers to YouTubers, have claimed to have deciphered the text, but none of them were able to prove it. That's not the only weird thing. The book has the same format of other medieval medicinal guides, but none of the plants illustrated are identifiable. No one knows what this plant is, or if it even exists. And no one actually knows who created the Thevoynich Manuscript or why. There have been a lot of theories, ranging from elaborate hoax to aliens, but the truth about the manuscript remains a mystery. Follow me for more rabbit holes.
Weirdest Unsolved Mysteries of All Time, Part 2. On a small farm in Kentucky in 1876, chunks of meat began falling from the sky. No one knew why this was happening, but the even weirder part is that nobody could figure out what animal it came from. So there were piles of this mysterious meat laying all over the farm, and a few very brave people decided to actually try it. And they couldn't figure out what it was either. The meat was later taken in for testing, but the results were inconclusive. There have been dozens of theories since then, but nothing's ever been proven.
Social media influencer and businesswoman Alexis Sharkey was found deceased this past Saturday, November 28th. Her body was found unclothed by a freeway with no visible signs of trauma. Her mother had last talked to her on Thanksgiving and said everything seemed fine. Her friends last received texts from her on Friday, the 27th, around 6 p.m. Alexis's husband Tom called her mother on Saturday to let her know she was missing. The couple had just recently moved to Houston, Texas, and he said the last time he talked to her was Friday. Alexis's friends alleged that she had been planning to divorce Tom and had the papers ready when she went missing. There are also speculations about possible abuse. In his social media posts when she was missing, it's pointed out that he was talking about her in past tense before her body was found. Overall, the language he has used in posts and in interviews seemed to be a bit off. He has made all his social media private and told ABC News that he has been receiving death threats. The medical examiner has not yet released the cause of death, but her friends and family are rallying for Alexis's justice.
This
is Alicia Navarro. She disappeared from her home in Glendale, Arizona on September 15th, 2019. She's on the autism spectrum and has social anxiety. Her mother Jessica last saw her when she came downstairs for a glass of water at 1 a.m. on the 15th. When she awoke the next morning, Alicia was not in her room. She left a note saying, "I ran away, I will be back, I swear, I'm sorry," and her laptop was gone, but she left the chargers. There were chairs stacked up by a wall in the backyard. It looks like she used them to climb over. Jessica said that her daughter was very into gaming and would stay up online talking to friends and playing. She fears that an online predator may have lured Alicia away. Alicia turned 16 on September 20th, 2020. She has brown hair, brown eyes, and braces. She is 4'5" and weighs about 90 to 95 pounds. If you have any information on Alicia's whereabouts, call Glendale Police. Her mother also has a TikTok where she shares information and spreads awareness. I'll tag it below. This woman has been missing for 19 years. She worked at a Honda automotive plant in Marysville, Ohio, where she was dating a married man who said he would leave his wife for her. The plant would shut down every 4th of July week, so Patty and her boyfriend planned a trip to Canada. They were going to leave together in his truck on June 29th, 2001 after work. Just after midnight, Patty clocked out. The plan was for her to get under a tarp cover in the bed of the boyfriend's truck because a co-worker was riding home with them. They didn't want people to know they were seeing each other. Patty had a 7-year-old daughter and was meant to pick her up from her sister's house on the way home from the trip. She never showed up though. Her sister called the boyfriend and the boyfriend denied that he was ever even going out with Patty. However, a police search of his residence did confirm the relationship. It was also revealed that Patty had given him about $90,000 leading up to her disappearance. She did this so that he could buy out his side business and his wife wouldn't get anything in the divorce. Because there's no evidence, no arrests have been made, but the boyfriend is the prime suspect. And Patty has been declared legally deceased, although her remains have never been found. Her sister says she just wants someone to be held accountable.